The Faithful Fanatic is live. We're joined with a very special guest today, Javier Vega of Pro Football Network, co-host of the Fourth and Goal podcast. Javi, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your time, and it's a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, no problem, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on, and let's get to it, man. This season sucks.
Yeah, I feel like as these episodes go on and the season progresses, there's not going to be a lot of fun episodes, so to speak, because right now with the situation that the Niners are dealing with, the circumstances of all the injuries, they're putting out their B team. Let's just jump right into it and discuss the Saints loss yesterday. The 49ers lost by a final score of 27-13. Now, that final score, in my opinion, does not tell the entire story because they were in this game for a good amount of it. It was nothing like the Packers Thursday night matchup where they were blown out of the water right from the jump. This had a different feel to it. Javi, before we jump into the game, because I find this very interesting, it seems like most people have a stance. They're either on the side of trying to squeak into the playoffs or just understanding that this team is so depleted that the playoffs are not what's important. What's more important is setting up the team for success in the future. What was your thought process going into this game, or what has your thought process been in regards to should this team make the playoffs or should they try to not lose games, not tanking, because that's a terrible way to phrase it, but more so look at the development of players and look at other areas besides the win-loss column? Where did you stand with everything?
My stance changed a couple times this season because this team has given you hope and then let you down, right? But once Bosa went out, you lose, Solomon Thomas, for all he is, you lose a guy like Solomon Thomas, then Jimmy goes down, you start losing guys weekly. Like it seemed like 2 to 3 guys each week. That just, you at the end of the day, you're looking for now just a development of the younger guys, get guys in like Tavarius Moore, let Colton McKivitz play, let's see JaMycal Hasty, let's see these things happen, but it's not sustainable, the amount of injuries, and then you have replacement level quarterback play with CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins. It's just, you're not going to win a lot of games. I'm sorry. I don't have high expectations when you're telling me that Nick Mullins is the starting quarterback of this team. Jimmy Garoppolo is a different story. I don't have very high expectations with Jimmy Garoppolo, but he is able to win you games. He is able to make 3 to 4 more plays than Nick Mullins and get you wins. Like if Jimmy Garoppolo plays this game yesterday, the Niners probably win, or he's potentially keeping it a little bit closer than what it is. But you can't survive a game like this against the Saints where you have a muff punt that sets the defense up for failure right after they got off the field. Then you have the other one where Trent Taylor was supposed to catch it, like Kyle Shanahan said. Then you have the turnover with Nick Mullins, and then the late interception. You can't succeed that way, and your quarterback isn't going to win you these type of games. So my expectations are lowered because of the quarterback play, and it just is what it is with this team at this point. It's just, they're so depleted. Like there's no way you can survive 22, 23 guys on injured reserve. Big names. We all think George Kittle is the number 1 tight end in football. You don't have him right now. Nick Bosa is a top 5 defensive end. You don't have him right now. You replace DeForest Buckner with a rookie who's starting to show flashes. You still need some growth there. You have Brandon Ayuk who's flashing. Debo's out. Like it's just, you don't have a full collection of all your tools, and it's just hard to really evaluate this team. I'm really just evaluating individual guys. Fred Warner, elite. Brandon Ayuk's going to be a star. Javon Kinlaw is growing every week. Kendrick Bourne is who he is. He's a third down. He's a third down wide receiver. He's going to get you some big plays when you need him. Trent Williams is playing well. Laken Tomlinson played better. After you're not going to win every rep, but this entire right side of the offensive line needs to be revamped in some way. Either draft a guard, pay a guard, draft a center, pay a center. Just don't get a center with a history of injuries like Richburg, and then you might be fine. Defensively, Jason Verrett is probably playing himself out of our price range right now. Emmanuel Mosley's playing well. Jimmy Ward needs to be better. You're paying a guy $25 million. He's got to play better. Jaquiski Tartt probably played his last snap against the Packers, but it's time to see what Tavarius Moore can do at strong safety, and we saw that. He forced a fumble. Go figure. He forces turnovers. That's what he does. Let him play the fucking game. Excuse my language, but now it's just so frustrating to see this team have these guys as depth pieces not playing. Like, put Tavares more in the game. Let's see what Marcel Harris can do. I think Marcel Harris is a better run defender anyways. Like, put him in there. Like, what are we doing at this point? They played Marcel Harris at linebacker in some snaps this game. That was smart. Robert Saleh is doing a good job. Kyle Shanahan is doing a good job with all of the injuries. You know, it's just East Bay Chris, what's up, man? It's just so fucking frustrating. So yeah, it's so frustrating because this game was winnable. It was winnable. If we had an ounce of competent quarterback play, we win this game.
Well, I absolutely agree. I mean, when you look at the offense got going real fast, but everyone likes to credit the offense going, but right away they don't really acknowledge Kyle Shanahan. They acknowledge him, and then like the rest of the game, they're like, "What the hell, Kyle? What the hell?" It's like we got to look at his inabilities that he has on the offense due to the lack of depth at quarterback. He has no one really there he could actually play and be trusting them to give them the offense. He has to dial up stuff. And like you said, they're doing the best they possibly can with who they have. The defense is staying at a good level because of Robert Saleh scheming stuff up, keeping guys rotating in and out of the defense. Kyle Shanahan, I think he's done a phenomenal job with the offense he has. They're not putting up points, but he's keeping his offense afloat, and he's covering up a lot of the flaws this offense has. This right side of the offensive line is so terrible that we should not be in games at all. That guard and tackle position right now is absolutely probably the worst tandem, I would say, in the NFL right now. And for Kyle to be able to have a decent offense with that right side, that's something to say.
I'm just going to jump in. Oh, sorry, Javi, but I'm going to jump in and just talk about how my personal thoughts have evolved over the course of the season regarding this team. So we go into the year with Super Bowl or bust expectations before all the injuries kind of happen. So, you see what happens with Nick Bosa. Jimmy Garoppolo has a lingering high ankle sprain. Solomon Thomas goes down. Not that he plays a crucial role on this defense by any means, but once you see the injuries start piling up, you kind of go from, okay, Super Bowl expectations definitely need to be lowered, but okay, there's a 7th playoff spot this year, so maybe you can sneak in there, which has been my thought process for the last 2 weeks, because after this bye week, you have Raheem Mostert coming back, you have Deebo Samuel coming back, and those are the two pieces that are essential to the 49ers' identity, or at least what the identity was when they played the Rams and the Patriots. When those two guys are there, you don't ask much out of your quarterback. Just look what Jimmy Garoppolo did against the Rams and Patriots. So that's kind of why I was holding on to that playoff hope, knowing those two guys were going to come back after the bye. And if you could be in a position where you're 5-5, you have 2 winnable games against the Cowboys, against the Washington football team. I almost dropped the R word right there. And then you have the divisional opponents. So I thought there was a chance. And now the way things shaked out after this weekend, the Seahawks go from 1st to 3rd place. And there's just so much shuffling going around where it's definitely a long shot right now. I'm not ready to completely write it off just yet. We'll see if this team can go on a run after the bye. But I think your evaluation of individual players, Javi, was spot on. And we've been pounding the table for Tarvarius Moore to get on the field for the last several weeks, just like the whole fan base has. Really, everybody wants to see more Tarvarius Moore. You see him in a limited role in the Super Bowl. He picks off Patrick Mahomes, has another pass defense. He just makes plays. He's a playmaking safety, and that's exactly what they're not getting out of Jimmy Ward, who actually made a few things happen yesterday against the Saints. But for the most part, you gave him a $28.5 million contract for what? So I have a lot of problems with that ball hit him in his hands. Like, how do you not catch that? I'm pretty sure any other athlete catches that football. I don't know how Jimmy Ward drops it. So things have definitely shifted a little bit.
It's just a frustrating season. And, I lowered my expectations the minute, like I said, that's the problem with, and I usually, I say it a lot, like some people just live in their own timeline, whether that's with Twitter or Facebook or just, whoever they associate with. The Niners are dealing with a lot of injuries. And, there's not much a coach like Kyle or Saleh can do except to get maximum effort out of these guys. And, I heard something about QB development with this group. Like, it's okay to say these guys are maxed out. Like, CJ Beathard is maxed out. Like, that is his ceiling. Nick Mullins, this is his ceiling. Like, they're not going to get much more out of him. Like, Same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. To me, Jimmy Garoppolo is maxed out. Like,
I agree with that.
but his max out is good enough to win you games. He's good enough to help you win games. He's not going to win you some games. Yes, he's done it a couple times, but more often than not, you're going to see an 18 for 26, 260 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception game from Jimmy Garoppolo. That's just who he is. If you go back and watch his college tape and look at his college numbers, he's pretty much the same player in college as he is now. And that's just who he is. He's more meant for a Bill Belichick offense. Real one quick reads. He's not going to push the ball downfield, and that's the problem. That's another problem. I think a lot of this stuff is collective. You know, when defenses don't fear the quarterback, whether that be Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, or Jimmy Garoppolo, you're going to see teams selling out to stop the run, blitzing the hell out of these quarterbacks, and forcing them to beat you. Remember last season, I was a Jimmy defender. Oh, everyone's like, make Jimmy beat you, make Jimmy beat you. And those guys were right by saying these things. Yes, we got a couple big plays out of Jimmy Garoppolo, but now teams have more film. Teams know his weakness. They're going to take away the middle of the field. They're going to dare him to throw outside the numbers and down the field. He can't or he won't. It's one of the two. And that's just kind of where I'm at with it. You know, and I mentioned something, I was thinking about it earlier today. It's like Kyle Shanahan has handcuffed Jimmy Garoppolo, but then CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins handcuff Kyle Shanahan. And it's just, that is how it works.
It's an interesting dynamic. It's an interesting dynamic with Jimmy Garoppolo because similar to how the season has evolved as a whole for the 49ers, I have a similar timeline with how I feel about Jimmy Garoppolo. Going into this season, knowing how he performed last year, I was saying like maybe there's 5 or 6 quarterbacks without a question, all things considered, I would take over Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, taking into consider age and remaining years on the contract and the contract salary. Jimmy Garoppolo, we did not know if what we saw from him last year, if that was his ceiling. After seeing him this year when healthy, I know he was healthy one game against the Cardinals, but you saw he costed the team that game. He really did cost them. And just seeing him play and trying to fight through the high ankle sprain, which, you know, when you're dealing with injuries, it's going to weigh on your mentals a little bit. But I'm convinced now that we've seen peak Jimmy Garoppolo, what he was last year, just like you're talking about. You're using the phrase, Javi, maxed out, and that's exactly my same opinion, that we saw the peak of Jimmy Garoppolo. When he's on, he can make plays for you, but the inconsistency is simply, or the consistency rather, is simply not there.
Yeah, it's just, you know, there's like, to me right now, based on what's around the league, you know, I would take all the rookie quarterbacks. I would take all the second-year quarterbacks. I would look at a Sam Darnold very strongly in this offseason. You know, obviously Russell Wilson is an elite guy. Matt Ryan is another guy potentially look at, but the contract doesn't make sense. It's just, you know, we've seen what the Niners don't necessarily need everything to be perfect for them to win, because we're seeing a defense play really, really hard without, you know, without a Bosa, without a DeForest Buckner. They're playing really well. You know, to hold Drew Brees to like 76 yards or something like that for the first half, and then hold Winston, for like 63. Like, the defense played well. When you put your defense in a bad predicament because of your special teams, which was atrocious on Sunday, they're gonna break, and then you can't have a bend don't break defense if you're already in the red zone defending. Like, it's just not how it works. But it's this team just needs a quarterback like that. Like, to me, that's all it comes down to: a quarterback that's going to threaten every level of the field, from your shit behind the line of scrimmage that Jimmy Garoppolo loves to throw, to your intermediate routes, and then your deep routes. Like, I don't know how many times I've watched the Niners this year where Brandon Ayuk is streaking down the field wide open, and either Jimmy won't look his way, Nick won't look his way. And we saw yesterday, Richie James is wide open and a guy underthrows him. That was my issue with Jimmy Garoppolo last year. And the deep ball, I got a whole bunch of shit for it on Twitter. Like, his deep ball was suspect. He was always underthrowing guys. And I noticed it in the overtime game against Seattle on Monday Night Football, where he has Deebo Samuel beating Shaquille Griffin on the sideline. And what does he do? He basically hits Griffin in the back of the helmet instead of putting it in front of Deebo Samuel. And the Niners probably walk off and win that game. Like, that was the biggest noticeable thing there. And to Matt _Lav 18, yes, Watson would be my choice. He was my choice in 17, and he's my choice now.
Well, let's jump in a little bit and dabble with some future potential quarterbacks to take over this team. Because I feel like if they're picking in the mid-teens, that's what they're projected right now, low teens, 13, 14, somewhere in that range. Javi, you're probably the best person to answer this. Will all 4 quarterbacks, the 4 quarterbacks being Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance. Did I say Trey Lance already?
No, you
And
just
Zach
added it.
Wilson and Zach Wilson, are they all going to be off the board and go top 10?
No.
No, I don't think. I think you're going to see a fall for Trey Lance. I think you might see a Zach Wilson fall a little bit. But you know your number one, number two. It's Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. Just looking at the draft order right now, you got the Jets at 1, Jags at 2, Dallas at 3, Giants at 4, football team at 5, Chargers at 6, Dolphins at 7 because of the Houston trade, Bengals at 8, Panthers 9, Atlanta 10. So there's your top 10. Is there a way for the Niners to get into the top 10? Yeah, right at the number 7 pick for Miami. You got the Dallas Cowboys at 3, who are most likely going to bring back Dak Prescott. And then the Chargers at 6. So there's ways to get up. And if the Niners see a guy that they want to target, you have to go get him. They're like, I gave Kyle Shanahan a pass for 2017. He's not going to get a pass again because this time you have to go get your guy. But yes, there's ways to get up there. Now, if they want to go the route of Sam Darnold, I'm behind that. But with Sam Darnold, I worry he might be mentally shot. We spoke to a couple players who were coached under Adam Gase, and Adam Gase is a terrible, terrible coach. Not just because the media says so. Now I'm hearing it from players. Like, the guy was absolutely garbage. So maybe you can save Sam Darnold's career by getting him with a Kyle Shanahan who understands how to utilize his quarterbacks. But to me, the guy that fits the best in this offense is Zach Wilson. He's my number 3 quarterback. I think we are not going to get in range or even sniff Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence. But my guy would be Zach Wilson. The second guy for the Niners would be Trey Lance. Then I would look at a guy like Kyle Trask. But Kyle Trask reminds me of a Jared Goff. I don't know if I want that. Mac Jones is similar to Matt Ryan in the sense of the big arm, but very limited mobility. And we see that this offensive line can't protect long enough, especially the right side. So you're going to have to get somebody who can move. Like, I don't know what 49ers fans are watching. Like, we're watching Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson run around behind bad offensive lines and still make plays. Yep. Like, I don't want to hear about, no rookie quarterback's going to come in here and do this or that. We're watching Joe Burrow run behind a bad offensive line. We're watching Justin Herbert run for his life and still make a whole bunch of plays. Even Baker Mayfield, who's limited as a mobile guy, he still makes some plays away from the pocket. He's able to do that. Lamar Jackson, obviously his issue is passing, but these guys are coming into the NFL ready, and NFL coaches are making these offenses more college friendly so that the transition is easier. If anyone's watching Zach Wilson, he's running what the Chiefs run, and he's running what the Niners run. There's a reason for that. There's a reason Adam Peters was there the other night. It is what it is, and I think Lance will drop. I think Lance is going to be a guy who's going to go in the top 15. Shout out to Kyle Shanahan. That's funny to me. But, I work with Tony Pauline of the Draft Network. Every Wednesday we do Draft Insiders, a show, and he had mentioned Trey Lance may fall because he didn't play this year. He's going to need a really good combine. He's going to need a good pro day. With Trey Lance, there's a lot to like. There really is a lot to like. He can make pretty much every NFL throw. He can hit every level of the field. The only issue is I would like to see a little bit more tight window throws, some things where he's got to kind of push it and put it into some spots. I would like to see that, but we can't see that. And his 2019 film didn't allow for that because most of the stuff he was doing, he was throwing into wide open guys. When people talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and his stats, Jimmy Garoppolo threw to like wide open guys all over the place. That's the way I'm evaluating quarterbacks now is because of a buddy of mine. He was like, hey, why don't we just look at it this way? Look at how a quarterback is throwing to a moving target as opposed to a stationary target, or guys who are just running very simple outs, ins, and digs and hitch routes. They're just kind of in a real small bubble. Whereas, you're looking at guys like Trevor Lawrence, even Tua, Herbert, those guys were throwing to moving targets consistently in college, and they were more accurate that way too. So if that's going to translate to the NFL, guys who translate like that to the NFL, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, those things have to happen. So to me, it's Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson or bust for me, but I would be very happy with Trey Lance. I would be okay with Kyle Trask, but then I would be really intrigued by Sam Darnold as an acquisition.
Yeah, see, I like Trey Lance, but I have my issues with him. I feel like doesn't get to his. I was watching him the other day. He doesn't get to his progressions as fast as I would like. Zach Wilson gets 1, 2. He gets 1 to 3 like that. And that's what I like about him, because in Kyle's offense, year 1 through 3 is most likely going to be open. He likes to scheme everyone open. Not just everyone likes to say Kyle's offense is a one scheme, one read scheme, but it's really not. He has 1, 2, and 3 usually open. And I think Zach Wilson would give him that element, because this offense is built off the run. And then you go off the play action and take deep shots. That's what Kyle wants to do. That's what he brought in Brandon Ayuk, and he has Debo to run those gadget stuff. And he can't do it with a limited quarterback. And Zach Wilson and Trey Lance give him the opportunity to take shots downfield, and that's what this offense is missing. Someone who, like you said, puts fear in defenses by giving them that chance to throw. Because right now there's this whole offense, when you're facing 8 dudes in the box, you're not going to do much at all. I don't care if you have Raheem Mostert in the backfield. You could have anyone in the backfield, 8-man box, you're not going to get much done. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kyle views these quarterbacks. Everyone's saying Adam Peters is that one. It'd be real interesting to have seen Trey Lance, because you get to grow if again your full second year starting. And I think Trey Lance would have progressed. Yeah, he played a bad game in 2020, but he was also playing a team who already had 3 games under their belt.
Yeah, exactly.
So I look at that stuff and I'm like, okay, well, let me look at his 2019 film more. But like you said, my guy right now is Zach Wilson. What I would prefer is just Fields.
Oh yeah, but absolutely.
My problem with him in 2019 was his lower body. His lower body is now in sync with his upper body, and he looks really damn good. That would be my dream scenario. Depending on who's there at drafting number 2, they might not need a quarterback, and Kyle could say, "Hey, that's my guy. I don't care. Mortgage our future. That's who I need." And that would be really interesting to see, because this is a time right now. Your quarterback is done. You're done with him. You're separating from him. You have a full new 6 years. Why not take advantage of that time and go get your guy? I don't care if it's Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence. If you have to give up, because the Jets are kind of stupid. And if the Jets don't want Trevor Lawrence and you could pull it off, pull it off. So the thing for me is like you said, Kyle has no more second chances. And everyone likes to say Kyle is not a good evaluator at quarterback. But I've gone back to look at who he's had as a quarterback and who he's brought in. And he's done a pretty damn good job of evaluating quarterbacks, in my opinion.
So the one thing I could argue against Shanahan is that he was gung-ho about bringing in CJ Beathard. Going back to the 2017 draft, there were not many draft analysts that said CJ Beathard is going to go day 2 of the NFL draft. Shanahan saw the toughness quality in him, thought he could make something of him, and we all know how that experiment has panned out. I want to pose this question because this is something I've been spending a lot of time thinking about. You look at this 49ers roster, and if they nail the quarterback position next year, this offseason going into next year, this is a team that's going to be heading right back to Super Bowl contention.
Correct.
They're missing the quarterback position. And Javi, you talked about how these quarterbacks in college come in more pro ready now than ever before. In the past, it would be the conventional way to go about it would be to draft the quarterback, let them sit, at least half a season before really forcing them onto the scene. That's no longer really the case. Although you go back to the beginning of this year with the Chargers, yes, they had Tyrod Taylor starting initially before Justin Herbert got his shot. And so it seems like it's still kind of a thing, but it's not really a thing. These quarterbacks that come in, once they have their opportunity, they show you right off the bat that they're ready to go. They make plays. Justin Herbert on that Monday Night Football game against the Saints a couple weeks back when he was rolling out right and just sling it to the end zone for a touchdown. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy was just in college a year ago. So where I'm going with this, knowing that the 49ers are a team that if they get the quarterback position nailed, they can be competitive. They can win the NFC West next year. They can get right back to the Super Bowl. Are they better off selecting a quarterback in round 1 or trying to get a veteran quarterback if one becomes available? I'm going to throw out a couple names here. These are guys that I'm intrigued by. There's Matt Ryan, but Matt Ryan, he's a short-term fix. You have 1 or 2 years out of him, but he's been in Kyle Shanahan's offense before. He won an MVP with Kyle Shanahan. Would Matt Ryan be worth it to bring in for a year or 2 while you have a rookie waiting in the wings? Maybe not a first-round rookie, maybe someone like Kyle Trask. Or I see someone talk about King from Miami. Then you have Matthew Stafford, who may or may not leave the Lions. He has an out in his contract this year. I like Matthew Stafford. He's a very tough quarterback, a characteristic and a trait that Kyle Shanahan covets. But again, he does not have that mobility, which all quarterbacks and all teams in the NFL are trending towards, having mobile quarterbacks. So there's two names that I particularly like. Dak Prescott, although I have concerns with him coming off a significant injury, I would love to see Dak Prescott in the 49ers offense. You figure if you cut ties with Jimmy Garoppolo, you get Dak Prescott in there, you have to probably give him, what, 10, 12 more $million? I don't know what Garoppolo was scheduled for next year. Somewhere
24
20,
million
okay, 24 million. So let's say, what's reasonable for Dak? He wanted what? 35?
Yeah.
35. So you have to, there's a significant pay bump there. Deshaun Watson is the one name that really stands out to me. And I completely forgot about the Laramie Tunsil trade where the Texans shipped off their first round pick. But I think bringing in Deshaun Watson makes sense for both parties. I would offer 3 first round picks for Deshaun Watson because what you're getting. And I think that's a very important thing when talking about the future of the 49ers. If they go the route of drafting a quarterback round 1, you're not 100% sure that player is going to pan out. There's busts all the time. We've had 4 years now to evaluate Deshaun Watson. He's a guy that can lead an offense. He's a leader. He's mobile, has a rocket arm, can make all the plays. So is parting with that sort of draft capital, where I know I'm asking a lot of questions here now, is parting with that sort of draft capital worth it? It's a lot. 3 first-round picks potentially. Maybe they'd settle for 2, but knowing you have a safe bet in Deshaun Watson, a quarterback that could instantly get you back into playoff contention, Super Bowl contention, knowing you have Kyler Murray in the division, Russell Wilson in the division. Jared Goff is nothing like those other 2 quarterbacks. He certainly has his flaws. So is this team better off taking the risk and drafting a rookie quarterback to try to develop, knowing that they may not be as competitive right away, or getting a guy that's already more established?
Well, getting the guys more established is going to cost them more money in a lowered cap year. So, I ideally you'd want that. You'd want to get a Dak. You'd want to get a Deshaun Watson. Those guys, what they are. The Cowboys are likely to tag Dak Prescott again. And I think his tag was like $38 million or something like that. And Deshaun Watson just signed his extension. The reason he signed his extension because he was trying to force a trade. Like he wanted out of Houston. Like that is well known. I'm not gonna say who he wanted to go to because it's gonna piss everyone off, but he was trying to force a trade, and he ended up signing that contract. When it comes to Matt Ryan, it's gonna cost too much money to bring him in. His contract is crazy, and Atlanta Falcons aren't gonna eat that much dead money. They're not stupid. That's a well-run franchise. I think they're not gonna make a mistake like that. As far as Matt Stafford, that's intriguing. But he has a history of back issues. Niners fans complain about every fucking injury that we have now. So if Stafford goes out with a back issue, Twitter might explode and 49ers fans are going to freak out. To me, honestly, the best thing for this team to do, because you have contracts that are going to be coming up. Fred Warner's one. Nick Bosa's contract is going to be coming up in a couple years. You're going to have to pay those 2 guys. So I would go with a rookie quarterback under 5 years of control. And you don't have to extend him until year 4. It's literally right after you just got done paying Bosa and Fred is 2 years into his deal. You have some maneuverability and flexibility, and 4 years down the road, hopefully COVID is kind of cleared up and things are kind of back to normal. That the salary cap goes back up. I keep hearing the salary cap may stay the same as this year. So if it stays at $198 million, that's going to help the Niners. And if I'm the Niners, I'm moving that $24 million off of Jimmy Garoppolo. Move him, trade him, cut him, whatever you need to do. And using that $24 million to go pay Fred Warner, try to keep some of these 31 guys that are free agents. There's 31 free agents on this team next year. Like you have to figure out a way to bring back a Jason Verrett. Maybe extend Emmanuel Mosley, who's playing fairly well. What do you do about Kwaski Tart? Do you bring him back? Does he go, or do you go find another safety? I would say go find another safety. You got to go find a guard, obviously, because the guard situation on this team is terrible. Weston Richburg is likely to retire. He has a patellar tendon. He's probably not going to come back. If he comes back, that's going to be a humongous surprise. What do you do with Richard Sherman? Do you bring him back too? The answer is simple. Like the Niners could have extended Jimmy Garoppolo already and avoided all of this cap headache, and they haven't. They haven't done it. Like it's clear as day what their thinking is here. I don't care what Kyle and John say in the media. They're going to say that. They want full fan support on their decisions. That's just what they do. This front office lies, and I'm happy that they lie. Like, lie, please. Like, you don't want to tip your hand to other teams. But I would go rookie quarterback all the way because the roster's already in place. Nick Bosa should be back. Fred is elite. You got Kinlaw coming on. You got plenty of offensive weapons. I mean, think about it. We're all Niner fans. We haven't had a wide receiver since Terrell Owens, and we have two now. We have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. Get the quarterback, and if you find him in the draft, go get it. And if it costs you multiple first-round picks to move up, do it. It doesn't matter because if you have the guy, those first-round picks don't matter anyways because you already have pieces in place. Go get the rookie.
I would agree. Like Dak Prescott, it's an unlikely thing, but I think this guy kind of reminds me of Dak Prescott. I don't know if you can see my background. He kind of has a thing that reminds me of Dak Prescott. His build, his arm strength, his mobility. Didn't make the tight throws like Dak Prescott did in college, but he reminds me of Dak Prescott. That's Trey Lance. My thing is, if you go get a quarterback in the draft, it helps your team for the next 10 years. If you get a guy right now who is a veteran, it helps your team for the now. But then in 10 years, you're like, okay, well, we have to go find another quarterback because he's already going to retire because most of these quarterbacks are already up there in age, except for the Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson. I'd go to the Texans and say, hey, I'll give you 3 first-rounders. Who do you want? Take it. You guys don't have a first-rounder. You guys don't. So what do you guys want? Tell me what it is, and I'm giving it to you. Literally, because Deshaun Watson is that good. Paired with Kyle Shanahan, this offense would be elite. It would be in that category where everyone's like, whoa, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. It'd be Kyle Shanahan and Watson, who he should have taken in 2017.
He should have took him. It's
so I like the long-term thinking of because Javi raises a very valid point that if you have that rookie quarterback on the rookie contract, it makes signing Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, your homegrown talent that are going to demand big contracts, that much easier. It gives you that flexibility. Whereas signing a guy or trading for a guy like Deshaun Watson, who's already coming with a huge price tag, you don't have that same luxury, or you may not have that same luxury to be able to re-sign Fred Warner and give him $18 million a year. Nick Bosa, giving him all the money he's going to demand when his time comes up. So there's so many variables here. My personal GM philosophy is right in line with the Chiefs and with the Buccaneers, what they did this offseason, and even with the Rams. I think when you have a window, you go all out for it. And that's, of course, you're going to find yourself in salary cap hell, so to speak. But this is what these GMs do. This is why you have guys like Parag in office, because they can manipulate contracts and they're excellent at not renegotiating. What's the word I'm looking for?
Restructuring, reallocating.
Restructuring. That's why those guys are in the office. So I understand, like, looking ahead of the Saints, who are what, $60 million over the cap or whatever it is.
102.
102. No, that's not ideal, but I guarantee you they're going to find a way to figure it out. You find ways to figure it out. And I know it sounds crazy with your approach being, we're going to figure it out, but sometimes the cap is overblown to an extent, in my opinion. Yes, you should abide by it, but when you have the sort of pieces in place and you're a championship contender where you're just missing that one part, I'm all for letting it ride and just all chips on the table. But there's the other side of that where that's not always sustainable. It comes down to, do you want to capitalize and win a championship now, or do you want to remain competitive and in championship contention for the next several years without making that one huge push? You know what I'm saying? So there's definitely a lot of different variables to weigh out, and it's going to be extremely, extremely interesting to follow along to. Let's touch on Trey Lance. Trey Lance, North Dakota State, has not played this. He played one game this year. Yeah. Is that someone that can really come in week one and lead this football team? I'm personally not comfortable with that. I think he has too small of a sample size to step into a championship contending football team and get them to where they were last year. Am I wrong for thinking that? Do you guys have a different opinion on Trey Lance? Because the sample size and the lack of game experience is worrisome to me, and that's not even really taking into consideration his opponents.
So real quick, just to one of the commenter said, a rookie quarterback will set you back a few years. Rookies don't win. Rookies, the last couple of years, are a lot of these teams who had to pick quarterbacks were going to bad teams.
Bingo.
So that's why they're not winning. So like the Chargers, they're a bad team with a coach who doesn't know how to manage. Joe Burrow, he doesn't win because he's on a bad team. The Miami Dolphins built their team correctly. They allowed Tua to sit a little bit, and they're 6-3. This is a good team when healthy. You put in a competent quarterback, because that's really the difference between Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Mullins, and CJ Beathard. Like the gap between their talent is a mile long. Like, yes, we understand Jimmy Garoppolo has his limitations, but he is miles ahead of Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard. And that shouldn't be some kind of indictment or something to brag about, to be quite honest, when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo. He is who he is. And yes, rookies don't win Super Bowls. And so most veterans don't win Super Bowls. That's kind of my point here. If you have a win, I'm not here to win one title. I'm here to win multiple titles, be a playoff contender yearly. And if you land the rookie quarterback and he's the right guy, and you get a situation like a Patrick Mahomes, then you win a Super Bowl in his third year. Like I've been a Niner fan since I was 6-7 years old. I've only seen one Super Bowl. I've been waiting for them to win another one. I'm a patient fan, and I understand how these things work. When it comes to Trey Lance, I would rather him sit a few weeks, kind of go the Tua route, because he's going to need some of that stuff. But who's the bridge guy? Who is the guy in front of him? Okay. All right. Yeah, I feel you. I'm just reading the comments. Sorry. But with Trey Lance, I'd rather him sit a few weeks, bring him in, and let it go. But the question is, who is the bridge? Is that do they keep
Andy
Nick Mullins? Do they keep Nick Mullins one more year and allow him to teach the offense to a guy like Trey Lance? Or do you just rip the Band-Aid off and let him go? Because the defense is good enough to carry you through some wins, because we saw the first half of the 2019 season, Jimmy wasn't that good in the first half. The defense carried him and the run game carried him. We all know this. If anyone goes back, everyone loves to box score watch and look at the stats. Go look at his game logs. They're not very good. The back half of the season, there was some attrition on the defensive line, and the secondary started to get banged up, and then you needed Jimmy Garoppolo to throw you some wins. Yes, we all understand the Saints game was a big win. In the Rams game, he played terrible in the first half and then came big in the second half. Like, if you get that from a rookie, that works for me. So, the Niners right now, they're picking 13. Can they get into the top half into the top 10? Yeah, I mean, are the Bears winning right now? Or are they losing to the Vikings? Like, if the Vikings win today, the Niners drop right into like 11 or something like that. Like right now, the way it's trending, they can get into the top 10 of this draft and make some moves. And I'm willing to give up a 2022 first round pick. And if it means sending Jimmy Garoppolo off in some type of trade too to go get a guy, do it. There's a lot more games left. Bears are up 13-10. Cool, appreciate it.
Well, let's say, looking at the 49ers remaining schedule, they have 6 games left. They play the Washington football team. They play the Dallas Cowboys. Knowing Kyle Shanahan's competitive nature, he's going to do everything in his power, or at least that's my interpretation of Kyle Shanahan, that he's a coach that's going to get his troops ready to go. He's going to try to win football games. What is the floor? Like, where is the absolute lowest record-wise the 49ers can finish with? I see them at least getting 2 more wins. So 6-10 becomes the floor.
I agree.
When you're 6-10, all of a sudden you may end up picking, they can stay in that 13 range, and then, or they could even be lower than that. It's just, I think if there's a quarterback this team wants, I'm all for the aggressive nature of, if you have a guy, if Kyle Shanahan's in love with Zach Wilson, and there's fear that Zach Wilson may be drafted before the 49ers are on the clock, I'm all for loading up and going after your guy.
You have to.
Exactly. If you feel like you're 100% convinced that this is your quarterback of the future, it's a no-brainer. You do whatever you can to go get that quarterback.
The Eagles did it with Wentz. Remember, Eagles moved up twice.
Yeah. What about the Rams?
The Rams did it with Sam Bradford a couple times.
With Jared Goff too. Yeah, with Jared Goff. Yeah, they moved up to the first overall pick, and if I'm not mistaken, they were drafting in the mid-teens, if I remember that correctly. It was a huge leap what they did. So I'm all for, if your franchise quarterback is there, you go up and grab them if you're convinced. And that's the key there, that Kyle Shanahan needs to feel like this is his quarterback for the next 10 years.
And the thing is with Kyle was in 2012, the Washington football team, they took RG3. Kyle did not want him. They did not want him. The Shanahans did not want RG3. Yet they went 13-3, made the playoffs because they adjusted their scheme. So that's why when everyone's like a rookie quarterback doesn't do it, rookie quarterbacks go to bad teams with bad coordinators. Mm-hmm. Kyle Shanahan is an elite coordinator. He's an elite offensive mind. He's gonna split the field in half and allow those quarterbacks to develop early often. So I
mean, we watched just understanding how this works with Kyle Shanahan. Like, he hid his quarterback for 2 weeks against the Rams and the Patriots, and they dominated by stretching teams horizontally and then occasionally taking a vertical shot. Like, and when I mean shot, I mean 15 yards. But then he got the big hit out Ayuk later in the game. But that's what I'm saying. Like, Kyle is able to adjust to his quarterbacks, whether that's a rookie or a veteran guy. So he can do that. As far as the rookie quarterbacks go, if you're in the highest the Niners can get based on their record and a couple other teams' record, I think it's 7. Like, that's the highest they can get without making any trades. So if they get to 7, and that would mean they lose the rest of the games. Like, they would be 4-12. Then they're at 7, and potentially you are in range if you need to move up 1 or 2 spots to do that. Now, if they stay at 10, that makes it more difficult. But the other thing that I'm considering that a lot of people aren't considering is the QB carousel that's going to happen this offseason anyways. Sam Darnold will be moved. Jimmy Garoppolo is likely to be moved. So that's 2 starters off the books. The Niners aren't picking 7 right now, but what I'm saying is the highest they could get is 7 if they go 4-12. Like, that's the highest. Like, that's the highest they can go. When it comes to the Niners being able to get into that range, like, you're there. But the other guys that are available, you mentioned Matt Stafford. Like, he's going to be moved most likely. So that's 3 other quarterbacks that'll go to probably bad teams. What happens to Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis? Where does he go? Does he come back? Does he stay? What about the backup quarterback? What happens to the backup quarterback? What's his name?
Jacoby
Brissett. Does he move? There's a lot of moving pieces right now. It's just it's interesting, and it's what sucks is it's just where it's so far away. It's like, fuck, I want this to happen now. Like let's keep going. But if the Niners run it back with Jimmy Garoppolo, he has to be better. He has to be much better. I'm not counting on that to happen. He's got nothing from CJ, he's got nothing from Nick Mullins. It's just sometimes you have to just go take a shot on a guy. And, I don't subscribe to Kyle Shanahan hasn't developed a quarterback. Everywhere he's gone, his quarterbacks have done well. Yep. But the way I look at Kyle Shanahan, when was the last time we said a wide receiver coach is responsible for developing a quarterback? Never, because that's who he was in Houston. He became the OC later, and then Schaub had a humongous year. He goes to Cleveland. He didn't want Manziel. That was not his pick. He wanted out of Cleveland because of that pick, but he still managed to get Manziel to be serviceable. He goes to, obviously he's in Washington with his dad. Snyder pushes RG3 on them. He's rookie of the year. Like, it worked. Mm-hmm. He picked Kirk Cousins, and for all the flaws and warts of Kirk Cousins, that's a 4th round pick who's developed into a top 20 starter and is serviceable. Yes, he has a 500 record, but if you're getting that from a 4th round quarterback, that's a W to me.
Yeah, I agree.
That's how I view it. I view these guys based on their draft selection. And
that's fair. I think if CJ Beathard were to have a career like Kirk Cousins, you say that was an excellent draft pick. You drafted this guy in the 3rd round. He lingered, or not. Kirk Cousins not even lingering. He's a starting NFL quarterback
who got paid twice.
Exactly, who got paid twice.
And with Kirk, it's like we understand his limitations, but part of it, he's played on a lot of bad teams too. Like, that's part of it too. And with the Jimmy Garoppolo thing, it's like we understand his limitations, and Kyle got him to a Super Bowl, like, by hiding a lot of his deficiencies. Like, that was hidden, and they got to a Super Bowl. What does he get when he gets a little bit more talent? Like, right now, if you view Jimmy Garoppolo as a 70 and the next guy's an 80, that 10% difference is probably the difference that gets you from, being down or being up 10 to being up 20 in a Super Bowl. Like, that's where I'm at with a quarterback like that.
There's 2 names that we haven't talked about yet regarding being a possibility of coming to the 49ers next offseason. Kirk Cousins, which Kyle Shanahan has this fascination with that no one really sees. And Mitch Trubisky to me is a very intriguing potential stopgap quarterback. I see your face,
No.
Javi. No, he has the mobility. He's the one guy. I'm not advocating that the 49ers should bring in Mitch Trubisky, but it's almost one of those moves where you feel so odd and off about it that it may just happen. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to bring in Mitch Trubisky, but he's mobile. He can make plays outside of the pocket. He'll be the cheapest veteran on the market, I'd imagine, because he's been paid throughout the first 4 years of his career, receiving the second overall pick draft slot salary. So he's a cheap option at there's no shot for Mitch Trubisky.
With Mitch Trubisky, we know what he is. Like, yes, he has some high highs. But yes, cut Nick's mic. Yes, like
cut Nick's mic.
Put him on mute.
Hey, I'm not. Let me make this clear. I'm not advocating that Mitch Trubisky should be the next quarterback. I'm just throwing. We're talking quarterbacks next year. There's going to be a lot of them available. It's a carousel. Things are going around. We'll see.
Like with Nick, with Jimmy Garoppolo, we know he can't throw the ball down the field. Like he has an issue with that. With Mitch Trubisky, he can't throw left. Like you kind of need that, and that's his issue. The other guy that no one really kind of mentions is Aaron Rodgers. There is a lot of talk that he wants to come here. There is talk that he may force his way out of Green Bay. Maybe that's a way to go, but it doesn't solve your problem long term either. Like I still would rather just go with a rookie quarterback. So, and Carson Wentz, another guy. Eagles are not happy with him. He has a lot of bad practice habits, I've heard. He's got, just an arrogance about him. In his own locker room, and guys don't respect it because, Nick Foles won that Super Bowl, not you. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. At the end of the day, either you bring Jimmy back and you hope he's better, or you cut bait now, rip the Band-Aid off, go get a guy, and you live and die by that guy. Like I will respect Kyle Shanahan much more if he's bold enough to move up and make a humongous push for a rookie. So.
The quarterback I would like to see to be the bridge guy, and it's a name that everyone's gonna be like, nah, I don't want him. He throws too many interceptions. Jameis Winston. No. Depending on how he plays, he could at least push the ball downfield. I mean, you're not looking for a guy
I was watching that game when Winston came in, and I was like, he's gonna throw one. He's gonna throw one. And what does he do?
Yep.
He threw one, and that's who he is too.
So, but the thing is, for that, we're looking for a bridge quarterback, a guy to play 3 or 4 games. For the quarterback we take in the first round to start, like we've said, Kyle could scheme stuff up to hide his quarterback play. All you need is someone in there who's capable of learning an NFL offense. And Jameis Winston is learning behind Sean Payton right now, so he's able to pick up a complex offense. So it'd be one of those things where he's only playing 4 games, and right then he's on the bench for you. I mean, I don't like Jameis Winston at all, but he's one of the guys where I think he'd be cheap enough because he's not that good, and he could be someone we hide.
So the stopgap, we're talking about a scenario where the 49ers draft a guy like Trey Lance, who you may not be comfortable starting day one. So short, half season, full season at most possibilities. Marco's not advocating to go sign Jameis Winston this offseason to be a stopgap. He's raising it as a possibility as far as who could become available. That would be a serviceable year option at most and have no problem transitioning from starter to that backup role. I'd agree Jameis Winston fits the bill as someone that would have no problem starting a few games, understanding he may need to serve time on the bench and be that backup quarterback. So that's a logical possibility. That's not what we're advocating for. Javi's team, Zach Wilson all the way. Go up, get Zach Wilson.
Go get Wilson.
Go get Wilson. I'm on the fence where I would not mind making a significant move and paying a lot of money to a quarterback that's proven that can step in right away and get this team right back to their where I don't think anybody's opposed to that. But as Javi said earlier, it makes re-signing Fred Warner, giving him that extension, giving Nick Bosa that extension that much more difficult. Fred Warner, he has 1 more year left on his rookie contract. You can franchise tag him. I am the biggest franchise tag hater in the world. I think the franchise tag is one of the worst things you can do to a proven player like Fred Warner, a guy that goes out there. Go back to the Packers game. Fred Warner from start to finish was playing with such passion, making plays, no matter the circumstances in the game. The score is 34-3, and this guy's still flying all over the field. When he sits down at a contract negotiating table with John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, Parag, and it says, I want $18 million, and you turn around and slap the salary tag on him instead, that is one of the biggest slaps in the face to me that you can do to a player that's worked so hard to prove himself to your organization. I think the franchise tag is an awful, awful thing. But as far as using it as a business tool to manipulate the money you need to give out to make it possible to hold on to Fred Warner for one extra year before having to extend him, so maybe you can bring in a Deshaun Watson and then figure things out a year or two down the road regarding Warner, then it makes sense. But again, I don't like what it does to the locker room and the feeling in the building, slapping the franchise tag on someone that's worked so hard to prove themselves to you.
I mean, with Warner, I know that deal's in the works. Like, that should be hopefully done by the end of the year, God willing. When it comes to it just with the cap puts him in such a weird spot because it's projected to go down or stay the same. It creates so many issues, and like I said, it's very telling to me. I didn't want to believe it over the offseason. Why didn't they extend Jimmy Garoppolo? Like, that would fix a whole bunch of cap problems, and they didn't. So I'm just looking at this free agent list for quarterbacks, and it's miserable, to be quite honest. But I mean, I would maybe look at a Tyrod. I would look at a Colt McCoy. Like, those guys would be able to understand the offense and teach it, but they're not good, but they would be able to teach it to a young guy. And I like what my guy A.R. Jones said. If Kyle can hide Jimmy, he can hide a rookie, and if you have to throw him in right away, throw him in. This team is good enough when healthy to carry a quarterback if they have to early on in the season. And I'm not, the standard is 13-3. You don't have to be 13-3 every year. If you get to 11-5, 10-6, you're still winning games. You're getting yourself into playoff contention. And, it is what it is with that. And this system, right now we're running a very conservative version of this system. I think a rookie quarterback can run this version of this offense because there's nothing super difficult about it. What you saw in Atlanta was far more difficult because he had a quarterback that could do it all. Right now we're in pre-K of this offense because the quarterbacks can't push the ball. We all watched the film. There's guys open everywhere, and no one gets through their progressions correctly. Their read progressions or their cover progressions is always off. And you got to get a rookie quarterback in here, throw him in. If you can hide a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, who's been in the league 6-7 years now, you can definitely hide a rookie.
And my thing is who will that rookie be? And it's all up to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They're known for going up and getting their guy. They went up and got Dante Pettis, CJ Beathard, jumped up to get their guys. So they're not afraid to go jump up and get their guy. And I think this is the time. Javi, I have a question for you. If you're Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, you have all the draft picks in the world to trade. Like, you guys are in the draft room and you're talking about, all right, every draft pick is available until 2023, whatever. Who would you jump up to try to get, and would it be wise to do so?
I mean, depending on where the Niners finish this year, if they're let's just say they're at 10 and they need to get to 5, right? They need to get to 5. I would not be opposed to sending 2021 first round pick, 2022 first round pick. You send 2021 fourth. And then, something later on, as far as 2022, like 5th or 6th, that is kind of what the value chart is now. Like, that's reasonable. And for Big Gold Nugget, like, we've seen guys move up from 22 to 2. Like, the Eagles went from 22 to 2, or they were in the 20s. They came all the way up to 2. It is reasonable. It's been done. It can be done. There's teams out there who are willing to maybe wait for next year. Like, there's guys coming out next year too. Like, these quarterbacks they keep churning them out. And, again, the quarterback carousel is going to be a big part of this too. That's something that a lot of people aren't accounting for. Where does Jimmy Garoppolo end up? Does he end up in the Jags because Robert Saleh goes there and head coach? Like, that's another possibility.
The one thing, it's a huge risk. It's a huge freaking risk to part with that sort of draft capital to move up. But again, I'm for it if that's your guy and that's the reason why you would trade up is because that's your guy that you're moving up for. But to play devil's advocate, there is always that possibility that it doesn't pan out. So if you're going to move that sort of draft capital, why not offer it to the Texans and pay Deshaun Watson the money he's owed on that contract, knowing it's a safer play, but knowing it jeopardizes the future of your organization by possibly not being able to bring back Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. It just makes it a lot more challenging. Not that it can't be done, but that's why I'm so on the fence between making that huge leap, parting with that draft capital to land your quarterback of the future, who's going to be your quarterback for the next 10, 15 years. Deshaun Watson's young. He's going to be in the NFL for the next 10 years. So why not offer the Texans something along those lines? I'm torn between the two.
I would just send that. I would send this year's first for Deshaun Watson and Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, send it back.
Yeah, I would go a step further in knowing Deshaun Watson's a proven NFL talent. I would go 2021 first, 2022 second, Jimmy Garoppolo. That's my starting package. And if the Texans accept that, I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled. Deshaun Watson and Kyle Shanahan's offense. Are you kidding me?
I mean, it should have happened. Like, it's just, oh my God.
So
I get it.
As long as the 49ers, as long as they do something with big balls this offseason, do something to make your quarterback, do something to show the NFL that, hey, we got big balls over here and we're ready to do whatever the hell it takes to win Super Bowls.
I want to touch on Big Golden Nuggets, one of my favorite names on Twitter. Houston wouldn't do that. I understand Bill O'Brien's gone. The Texans organization still allowed, look beyond B.O.B., Bill O'Brien. The organization allowed that trade to go down. It's just not solely Bill O'Brien. Correct me if I'm wrong, Javi. You have better inside scoop than all this. But there's a lot of people within an organization when moves are made to that extent, that high profile of a move does not just solely rest on Bill O'Brien. There had to have been other people.
Get approval for all that.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson wants the hell out of Houston. He has to. How could he not? He did. He probably still does. So why wouldn't Houston, who does not have a first round pick, let's say a quarterback like Trey Lance, who's not pro ready day one, is on the board at 10. Maybe this is a draft day trade where all of a sudden Zach Wilson's off the board. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields are clearly already off the board. Okay, we know that Trey Lance may take more time. Let's try to part, knowing that the Texans can get him, their potential quarterback of the future, right here. We'll give them more draft capital moving forward. The Texans need to blow everything up. Get rid of J.J. Watt. Get rid of Deshaun Watson. Start new. So I feel like this Deshaun Watson possibility makes sense for both parties. Just like we're talking about with the Niners right now, getting that quarterback on a rookie deal, it makes just as much sense for the Texans to do the same thing so they can allocate their resources to building around not just their draft resources, their cap space, to helping build around that quarterback. So Deshaun Watson is QB number one, even taking into consideration all of the draft prospects. I have Deshaun Watson atop my QB wish list because you know what you're getting. He's a safe bet. And then you kind of go down the list. I may even have Dak Prescott above Zach Wilson. I'm iffy on that, though, because of the significant injury. If he did not have to go through the ankle injury and that recovery, I would say, yes, Dak Prescott number two, because you know what you're getting out of Dak.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I would obviously you go with the veteran guy who can operate and function in multiple offenses. Dak and Watson are there. I think a lot of times people associate the name instead of the production. Like Dak is winning or is playing really, really well despite his shitty head coaches and the talent. You know, he has plenty of talent around him. He's able to hit every throw. He's mobile. Same thing with Watson. Watson doesn't have very much. You know, in coaching matters here. Like we understand Kyle Shanahan is this great coach. We all know Jason Garrett is not it. And Mike McCarthy went to PFF and said he did a whole bunch of analytics, and obviously that's not working. So, those would be my top two, but I'm still going to lean the rookie. You have to You have to figure out ways to manipulate this cap and manage the cap. I'm all in on a rookie, whether that's Fields, Wilson, Trey Lance. Even if you like a Mac Jones or Kyle Trask, those are really good guys. I just, I know that we reached out to Dak's people in the offseason. I can say that openly now. Like, we reached out to him his people in the offseason before he got tagged. Like, that was like, the Niners put doubt in their own locker room by nearly acquiring Tom Brady and reaching out to Dak Prescott. Like, those two things happened. Like, that happened. So it just is what it is. And just go get a rookie. Get a rookie.
So we have 6 games left to be played. Let's say the 49ers finish with a record of 8-8. When you start picking in the 17-18 range, right on the cusp of not making the playoffs, because the 14 teams make the playoffs now, so 32 minus 14, 18. So if you're picking 17, 16, you're the 8th seed in the NFC, whatever that may be, you're going to have to make a move to get a quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not completely opposed, like completely opposed to him coming back next year, because he did just take the team to the Super Bowl last year. Like, if Jimmy Garoppolo can get back to playing at that level and the team around him plays to the same level that they played last year, you can get back to where you were. The consistency is what worries me about Jimmy Garoppolo. But again, you got to sort out whether or not that's the best thing to do moving forward. And I think there's just too much it's too toxic right now between Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's better off having a fresh start elsewhere.
Yeah. And I think fans need to accept it. When Matt Mayoko starts mentioning that, Kyle and Jimmy are probably done together, you hear it from Eric Davis, you hear it from Steve Young, you hear it from Ian Rappaport, you hear it from Adam Schefter. Like I said, when you put doubt in the locker room and in your franchise about the quarterback by trying to get Brady and calling Dak Prescott's people and looking around this offseason, that's all you need to know. With what this team thinks of their quarterback position. And, everyone, I know I shitted on a whole bunch of analysts, and I was like super critical of them because I looked at it from a fan's eyes, and I put my heart in it instead of my head. And then I really rewatched all these games from last season. I'm like, okay, what is going on with Jimmy Garoppolo? And why is this offense not what it was in Atlanta with the weapons that we had last year, even with Emmanuel Sanders and George Kittle? Yes, we had some big games, but it wasn't what it looked like in Atlanta. So, and it's the quarterback, and you can say that Jimmy was carried by his coach in the run game and the defense, and I'm starting to agree with Stephen A. Smith on when you look at this team last season, you get to 4 different levels before you get to your quarterback, like the defense, the run game, the coach, and then your quarterback is like your 4th reason why you're winning games. The offense was still pretty good, but a lot of the stuff was schemed wide open. Jimmy Garoppolo had his ADOT was ridiculous. He had the most wide open guys in the NFL to throw to. It was insane, and that's a big part of Kyle Shanahan scheming guys open. I'm not opposed to Jimmy Garoppolo being back next year either, but like I said, he has to be better. You have to elevate your game. It can't just be all Kyle Shanahan's doing. You have to do more. And his movement skills are lacking, and part of it is the offensive line is terrible. The right side of the offensive line is terrible, but a lot of that has to do with the guys that are coming out in college. Can we count on a college guard or tackle to come out and play well? No, because they don't play well in college either. You got defensive guys who are much better, and you're having more athletic quarterbacks in college that are coming out in the NFL. The transition from college to the NFL, you're going to see a lot more college-type offenses in the NFL in the next 2 to 3 years, because you have to be able to move. You have to be able to extend plays. And there's teams like the Saints who have a really good offensive line, and they built their team that way because they know Drew Brees isn't going to work. So they went and they really evaluated their offensive line situation, and you have guys like Drew Brees who can sit back there, dink and dunk it if they need to, and maybe make an explosive play. Dak Prescott, he can move, and he was moving. He was forced to move because his offensive line just started to fall apart. Tyron Smith was banged up. They lost Lyle Collins, and none of their guys were any good anymore. Zach Martin retired. The offensive lines around the league aren't good, period. There's not many really good offensive lines.
Let's start to wrap things up. We're about an hour and 5 minutes deep. It's the bye week. Things are going to be quiet for the next week or two until the 49ers play the Rams. Huge divisional matchup. Not huge. It's not huge considering the 49ers lost. It had potential to be huge if they beat the Saints. They had a few opportunities which they could have. They had a few. It's funny because talking about the Saints game, we laid out, we being the Sports Illustrated team on Grant's show the other day, what the 49ers needed to do to beat the Saints. And they did pretty much everything. They scored first. They were better than the Saints on third down. They won the time of possession battle. But what happens, things you don't necessarily account for in terms of what could go wrong. A couple boneheaded plays on special teams. Trent Taylor not telling everybody to clear out, not attempting to catch the punt was a huge moment in that game. Then Richie James, the punt after he was all up in arms over C.J. Beathard, missing him downfield, muffs the punt the very next play. So the 49ers were right there. They had an opportunity to steal things. They can still finish the season on a high note. But the higher the note they finish this season on, the less of a position they're going to be in to solve their quarterback problems in the draft.
Yeah. No,
so
we'll see. Agree.
We'll see how everything shakes out. We kept tonight's show focused on the offseason because it's a dry week in terms of there not being a lot of previewing coming up because there's a bye, obviously, like I just said. So, Javi, we'll have a final question for you because I saw you just tweet this out yesterday. If you could power rank the 49ers' needs this offseason, what are those needs?
To me, it's quarterback one. I would figure out the D Ford replacement in the second round or third round or fourth round. Like, that has to be a priority. Or maybe Kerry Hyder is your answer. Extend him. Then I'd go center, guard, either free agency or a draft pick, and then safety. Like, you have to figure out this strong safety position, obviously, because Tart may not be back. So are you going to run out with Tavarius Moore next year? Do you move on from Jimmy Ward? I think safety is a big need. And I think you have to look at cornerback as the fifth option on there. So the top five would be quarterback, edge defender, your offensive line, whether that be guard or center, safety, and corner. Those would be my guys. But I agree with A.R. Jones here. Go with Ward and Moore. Like, those, I think that might be your best combination going forward. Ward is a very safe safety. Yes. He gives you versatility where he can come down into the box and play the run, and Moore can go back out to free safety. You have a lot of options there. With the corners, I think you're going to be able to bring back Emmanuel Mosley will be back. He's a restricted free agent. Slap a tender on him, he'll be back. As far as, Sherman, what happens with Sherman, I don't know. I would still look at corner. There's Castro Fields out of Penn State is a guy I really like. I think he'd be a nice fit in this defense. He's a really good man coverage corner at Penn State. Penn State just stinks right now for a bunch of other reasons. And I think you draft a corner, you draft a safety, you go pay a guard or a center. You obviously either draft or pay another quarterback or figure out what you're going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo, make that work somehow. And then figure out the D Ford replacement, because D Ford's back is not getting any better. Like, I just don't think he's going to be back next year. That's a lot of money off the books with Richburg and Ford and potentially Jimmy Garoppolo for the Niners to make a lot of moves and kind of reconfigure this team. But the core guys are there. You got Bosa, you got Ward. You got Bosa, you got Warner, you got Kittle, you got Ayuk, you got Debo. You got five big pieces already there. Trent Williams could be another major piece if they bring him back. Like, that's six guys you can function, and then of course guys who are really good role players. Dre Greenlaw, Emmanuel Mosley be probably back, so you have a nice setup here. Lakin Tomlinson has been hit or miss, but for what you got him for as a 7th round pick, and you extended him on a cheap, he plays pretty consistently good ball. You just got to figure out that center and guard position, and then hopefully McGlinchey can put the weight back on and figure some stuff out with his right tackle spot. So I think they're in good shape. They have the coach, they have the defensive coordinator, they have the culture, and I think the biggest thing with culture on this team is you saw last night they don't quit, and they went in undermanned and fought the Saints all the way through. So,
all right, this concludes episode 20, I believe, of the Faithful Fanatic podcast. We had our superstar guest, Javier Vega, at Javier Vega _ on Twitter. If you're not following him, give him a follow. Javi is on Pro Football Network. He's co-host of the 4th and Gold podcast. Javi, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll continue